Yeah. In the house. Sometimes I just have music playing in my head. I don't know about you guys, but you just need a beat in your head. It's Friday. Happy Friday, y'all. I'm really excited today because this is a Friday before I go on vacation. It's spring break next week. So the kids are going to be out of school, and we are not doing too much, but it's a good time for me to take a break from work because I really need one. I am being overworked right now, and so I'm excited because it's Friday and I'm going to be off next week. I hope that you guys are ready for your weekend, and so I'm going to kick you off here. I'm going to get started here because we have everything to celebrate. Life is good, and every day we get a new chance at it, so we have everything to celebrate. I'm Anjanika Brooks. Welcome to my page. Today I'm going to continue my series called From Unmothered to Empowered. And so if you're new to my page, welcome. And if you're catching the replay, welcome. I wrote this book called Unmothered. Here it is. Unmothered, A Daughter's Guide to Acceptance, Healing, and Renewal. I wrote the book because as a daughter, I struggled with my mother. Our relationship wasn't that great when I was growing up. And so I just like to begin my lives with just a little bit of a backstory so that you can understand where I'm coming from. So a lot of things that I talk about on the page have to do with, what I experienced myself. And so I know that there are many other women I've found out that are going through the same thing that I went through, and they're trying to heal. And so I use myself and my experience to help teach lessons that I think can help people. So what I'm going to do today is just talk to you a little bit about friendships. I want to know if you're out there and you feel like being unmothered has affected your friendships. And when I say friendships, I mean, it can be, any types of friendships, and we'll get into that. And I talked about relationships a little bit here. I started, I think, a couple Fridays ago, and I talked about your relationship with your parent to child relationships, and I talked about romantic relationships last week. And so today I'm talking about friendships because truly being unmothered can affect you on levels that you didn't expect. And so we want to try to look internally and see what we can do to work on ourselves and see if that helps us to show up how we want to show up in the world, and if that helps us to improve the relationships that we have and help us to gain some of the relationships that we would like to have. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not an expert. I don't have any mental health degrees or certificates, anything like that. I am just a person who's experienced life, and I'm just trying to share with you what I've learned. So, so let's jump in. So sometimes, and I've talked about it before, but sometimes when you grow up in a home and you are around a toxic mother or a mother who is narcissistic, meaning she is very selfish and she's into herself and her needs, and she's not necessarily receptive to what you need as a child, sometimes you end up missing some things. And things like your self-confidence, your self-esteem, even just the love that you should feel, it can be missing. I see Gabi has joined. Hi, Gabi. I see Charles. Nice to see you guys today. So, so sometimes you can grow up missing things. And when things are missing, at a young age, it does tend to carry forward in our lives. And that's why we see things playing out in a traumatic way when we're adults sometimes. And so that's been my experience. And you won't know all the time how to fix it or how to deal with it because you haven't really been prepared for it. You don't really know why it's happening or where it's coming from. So we're just looking at, how all that starts. And it does begin a lot of the times in childhood. It can continue into adulthood if you continue to have a relationship with your mother. Even if she's a toxic mother, you may still be experiencing some kinds of adverse effects from still trying to love her, be in a relationship with her, see her. And so it can continue to play out in your life from childhood on through. As for me, my mother passed away, and so I don't have that daily struggle of confrontation with her. However, I think in her passing, things were actually harder for me to process. It was really hard for me to come to terms with the fact that she was toxic and narcissistic. And so as these things begin to unravel and play out right now, we want to address them. And so what are some of the ways that you can be affected when you grow up unmothered? Your mother's not there emotionally, or sometimes even not even physically there for you. What are some ways that it can show up in your friendships? So just like we talked about in romantic relationships, how you can sometimes come to the relationship with sort of a codependency because you're missing some things. The same thing can happen in a friendship. And friendships really should be the basis for, I think, all relationships. I know people don't always agree when it comes to parenting, but somewhere embedded in there when you're older, there should be room for friendship. So friendship is really a foundation. And so when you're unmothered, it can cause you to come into a friendship expecting someone to, fill a void. Just like with romantic relationships, you can be expecting someone to give you something that you're missing. And really, what all relationships should do is they should complement you as a person, not complete you. No one else can complete you. I know that it's a phrase that's used often, but when you really, really think about it, anybody outside of yourself should be like a complement to you. You know what I mean? It should add to your life. It should add to your experience. But you shouldn't have to be dependent on another person to make your existence, to validate your existence, or to make you feel like you are now complete and you could do something that you couldn't before. Okay? Excuse me. So I hope that makes sense. And like I said, these are my experiences and my perceptions. And so totally up for a debate or comment. Pardon me, I don't know what's gotten into me this morning. So codependency is one of the ways that I think that being unmothered affects friendships. The other way is that sometimes it makes us unnecessarily afraid because we have trust issues. We have trust issues because we weren't able to trust our own mothers, with ourselves. We weren't able to trust our mothers with our feelings. We weren't able to trust that we would be properly cared for in some instances, or even shown love. And so a lot of the times, and I know it has happened to me, I've gone into friendships, like looking for something that I shouldn't, something that is too heavy for a friend to bear. And so I think that it can make you feel afraid. You're in the friendship. Excuse me. I don't know what's up with my voice today. So it can make you feel afraid because you're in the friendship and you're worried that your friend could do something to betray your trust. Your friend, may be there with ill will, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, or that your friend just really isn't genuine. And so it can make you unnecessarily worry and make you afraid that something's always going to go wrong, and then that can also lead to sabotaging the friendship. And so a lot of that runs parallel to what I said about romantic relationships, where self-sabotage can enter the picture because you're just afraid to give your heart. You're just afraid to invest that deeply. And although you have good reason to be afraid to invest that deeply, when you come in and you're like hyper vigilant, it can throw some things off. It can scare people away sometimes because they don't want to deal with your stuff. They don't want to deal with your drama. They're just here to have a good time and to, be friends together, do good things and fun things together. And if the energy that you're given isn't positive, they may pick up on that and, kind of become standoffish. And the same thing with you. They can tell. People can tell when you're not investing what they're investing. And so that is just one of the other ways that being unmothered can show up. And the third way I believe that it can show up is through your self-confidence and self-esteem. So what I mean by that is you can make friends. You can have people all around you. But you may be needy and they'll pick up on that. And in a sense, take advantage of you. You know, they won't be a true friend. They will know that you are in a relationship because you want acceptance. You want somebody, you know, that you feel good around because you can say, hey, that's my friend, that's my friend. They'll pick up on that and they may begin to use you. You know, they could use you for the things you have, for the connections you have, for other people you know. They can use you for a bunch of different reasons. They can use you just because it's fun to them. I know it doesn't sound good, but it's the absolute truth. And you know it. You know it. It has happened. It has happened to many of us. They can also just mistreat you, use you as a doormat because they have some things going on and they don't feel like you're strong enough to stop them. And so they're just going to take it out on you. And all of that can happen in what you are terming a friendship. And it really isn't, because the other person is, they mean you ill. You know, they do mean you harm. They're not in there to be a good friend, but you're thinking that maybe they are, or maybe they're going to change, or maybe they're going to get better. And it's simply because that's how you grew up. You know, you're used to a broken relationship and you're waiting on it to fix itself, and you don't want to let go of the person because you don't want to be alone. You don't like the feeling. You know, we've already dealt with what that feels like when we don't have the love we need, and when we don't have that acceptance, and when we, you know, are just missing a lot of the very essentials that we need as human beings. And so those are some of the ways, and I know that there are a lot more, but those are the three things that I think are some of the big ones for me, you know, like when you are unmothered. So what are some things that we can do? I've always got my notes over here and I'm just looking and keeping time too. So this is a good way I think we can approach friendships. It is always beneficial to know yourself. And so sometimes you need to take a step back and begin to figure out what you need, what you want as a person. Because in a friendship, it works two ways. It's give and take. You can't come into it and only want to feel good and only want the friend to support you and only want them, you know, to come to your aid if you need something or do whatever it is that you're interested in. It goes both ways. You need to be able to invest something and be that to the other person as well, right? That's what makes friendships so beautiful. That's what makes them so strong, is that we're both going to give something. And yes, we're both going to be vulnerable when it comes to the friendship. And, you know, and sometimes there are groups too, but we're going to talk about some of the differences in a minute, what I call the levels. But yeah, so you want to be in a good place where you can evaluate what you're looking for. And I believe probably when we're young, we think, oh, we should just be able to make friends. We should just have friends. And so when we struggle with that, or when we don't have good friends, it makes us feel even worse because we think something's wrong with us. And that's not always the case. It's not that something's wrong with you. It's just that you don't know you yet. You haven't gotten a chance to learn you yet because you've been told you're this or told you're not that or treated a certain way that made you feel, you know, like you were inadequate or like you weren't worthy or your worth was very low. And so you don't know yourself well in many times. And so it's hard to make friends when you truly don't know what you're looking for. And that's where you can see sometimes there's a mismatch with who you're hoping that you'll be friends with. And so it turns out, you know, not to be so good in some cases. And so when that happens, it's definitely okay to walk away from a friendship. We don't like to say that can happen, you know, because you think when you're friends, shouldn't you be able to fix anything? You know, shouldn't you be able to get through anything? No, not necessarily, because everybody is different. And here's the thing. sometimes people are still growing, just like you're growing, just like, we're learning ourselves and finding out about ourselves. So are other people. We don't know what traumatic experiences they've had all the time. They don't always come into the relationship and just blah, just share everything that's happened to them. And so we don't know some things. And before we can even get to the point where we're sharing and we're trusting each other, we start acting out. We see things, happening in our relationship before we can really develop it in a way that it might be. So it's okay when you're not a good fit for each other. It's okay to walk away from a friendship or to call it what it is. You know what I mean? It's okay to say, this isn't working, and I'm gonna leave the friendship, or we can't be friends. I just don't think this is good for me. We have to start putting ourselves first so that we can be what we want to be to other people and in the world, and accomplish our goals. We have to start tending to ourselves. And so it's all right to do that. Never should you, have to put someone down, or have to, try to dismantle their spirit, break their spirit, or, just belittle them in saying how you feel. You don't have to do that. Now, if you guys get into it, that's a totally different thing. I understand arguments happen. But what I mean is you can communicate. You can communicate with someone how you're feeling, what you think about the friendship, or what you think isn't working, and you can walk away. I mean, you can also ghost people if that's your way of doing things. That's not really my way. And sometimes it can come back to haunt you if you haven't truly put something to bed or dealt with it. And so that's why I say communication is good. But there are times when you just kind of need to slowly, gradually move away. And that's all right too. Okay, so one of the other things I want to say is that is about levels. Friendships can exist in levels. And so we may look at it as a blanket thing, but, remember their acquaintances. There are circles of friends. And I got this idea from my daughter's therapist who was helping her with her difficulties in making and keeping friends and understanding who's really your friend and who's not. And so there are levels. There will be some people that you can get along with. There'll be some people that, you can do certain things with, but they may not really fit the title or earn the title friend. And although you may call them friend, it may have a different meaning. So, they may be on the outer circle. And so we can look at it like that. And so there are levels to it, because as you come in, you're probably going to get closer and closer and closer to your dearest friends. And so the ones on the outer level, the outer circle, you don't have to invest as much if you're uncomfortable doing that. You don't have to reveal as much if that's not where you are, because you're not on that level, right? And then as you come in, you will need to decide. Now, the same thing can happen with your inner friend circle. Sometimes people show and prove themselves not to be worthy of being in that circle, and you can move them to the next level. You can move them out as far as you want to, or you can cut them off completely. And like I said, I'm not a therapist, but this is something that I did discuss with my daughter, and we talked about it with her therapist, and I just thought it was an amazing concept, and that it would help speak to some of the things we experience too as adults. And so I will just say that it's okay to have levels, circles of friends. It's totally all right. It is a way that we can protect ourselves. It is a way that we can learn what we like. And every friend isn't the same. You can't do all the same things with some friends that you can do with others. And so, and I don't want to say need friends for a certain reason, because of course we all need each other. We're all people and we need each other to survive, right? But what I mean is, the part that improves your life, as you should be improving someone else's life if you're in it. You should definitely be improving someone else's life if you're in it. So in that sense, it's okay for us to understand who's good to do what with, and, what works for some people, because that's your job to know that. You need to know it about you, and you need to know it about your friends, so that you can honor them and respect, their wishes and their boundaries and all those good things. Okay? The last thing I'm going to say about friends today is that it's okay to learn. I think that friendships are kind of overlooked. And like I was saying, people just say, well, you ought to be able to make friends. And, some people make it look easy. I'm an introvert. It has never been easy for me. I'm weird, whatever, different, whatever it is. It's never been easy for me, but it's okay to learn. It's okay to identify, hey, this person is being competitive. This is some of the stuff that I experienced with my mother. This is some of the toxic stuff, the jealousy. When you get those vibes, it's all right to take that as a red flag and say, they may not be for me. It's okay to be observant. We're learning here. It's all right to start all over and say, okay, I'm going to learn how to make friends. I'm going to learn, what's good for me, what makes me feel good. And I'm going to learn how much I want to invest in someone else, in which way I want to do that, what kind of activities I'm willing to engage in. I'm going to learn these things about myself. You're not going to learn it all overnight. It's not going to happen immediately. All I'm saying is be open to the opportunities that are around you. Be open to thinking about it in a different way. Instead of just saying friends should come by osmosis, understand that all relationships take work. And so you got to be ready to do that work if you want to reap the benefits, right? So you have to be open to that. And when we do those things, when we look at the ways that being unmothered has hindered us and look at the ways that it may have, taken from us, we can use that and say, okay, here's some things I learned from being unmothered. Here's some things I know. And this is how I'm going to approach my friendships. This is what I want to be different. This is, how I want to show up in my own truth. And we can talk about all that. And so when we do it, it can help make our friendships stronger, better, more meaningful, more fun, and just be the blessing that they were meant to be. Because they were truly meant to complement your life and not to make your life difficult, not for it to be a frenemy situation or anything like that. And so that is my talk today. That is what I have on friendships. I hope that it's helpful. I love, I see Gabi's comments. Thank you. I love hearing from you guys. So please teach me something. Bounce your ideas off me or send me your questions. I love talking about this content because I think that it's needed. There are a lot of things that we haven't talked about, and especially when it comes to being unmothered. And there's a lot to unpack on the topic. And so I just love spending time with you guys and just being available to discuss it. I'm happy to put out there what I know and to give you my perspective. I do not know everything, and I don't claim to. I am just a person that has gone through it. I'm maybe a bit further along than some of you, and so I'm just trying to drop some nuggets and share what I know. So if you have questions, you can DM me. If you want to talk more, I have 20-minute increments of time on my calendar. You can schedule with me. That's on my website. We can also do it through a DM if you want to chat more. And if you are interested in my book, you can also get that on my website. It's also available on Amazon as an ebook. And so in the book, I just talk about the 9 steps to healing. And I walk you through and lay out the way that I got from the very, very hurt, difficult place of dealing with the trauma of being unmothered to my happy place of feeling empowered and like I could have the life that I want. So I share that through my story in the book that I've written. And so you can certainly get a copy of it. You can also visit my website where I have some content there that I hope can help you if you're on the healing journey or if you're ready to start. So that's my chat for today, guys. I hope that you enjoy your weekend. The sun is finally out here, and I guess that's why I'm so excited and happy and feeling blessed. And so I send these blessings and good vibes on to you and send you off with a lot of love. Take care, guys.